Okay, so we're back on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Let's get into the news. Fair use.
Niger's newly instated junta issues another statement warning that any aggression towards Niger will be met with immediate and unannounced response. The military administration also called off pacts with former colonizer France, 3 days ahead of the deadline that was issued by the Economic Community of West African States to restore order. Niger's junta has said that its security and defense forces will respond with attacks in retaliation to any aggression or attempted aggression towards the landlocked nation. ECOWAS, which is a bloc of West African nations, had earlier issued an ultimatum threatening to use force if the order was not restored in Niger by Sunday. Military chiefs of the bloc's member countries also met in Nigeria on Wednesday for 3 days of consultations. ECOWAS has already imposed trade and financial sanctions after the coup. Nations of the ECOWAS have come together to exert pressure on military leaders of Niger, while Senegal, along with other nations, prepares to send in troops upon non-fulfillment of this ultimatum.
The Senegalese military, for all these reasons, will be going. As I speak, the chief of staff of the ECOWAS member states are meeting to see what the modus operandi will be once the political decision has been taken.
What do you think the reason why they rebelling? Why do you think it's the reason why they ousted the primary leader? They don't want to put up with France and European powers making them slaves while raping their land, taking their resources and giving them scraps for it. That is the reason why. And it's sad that this is how it is. Your own people are seeing it, and they want to be on the side of European powers that are destroying their land. You want to know the reason why you have Africans leaving their homeland and going to European countries to get an education? Is because of this. All right, that's why.
At the highest level and at the community level. So yes, our soldiers will go. How will they go? They are still in the process of consulting each other on that.
Niger's junta has also cut off military ties with France, a decision that comes at the cost of a weakened fight against the Islamist insurgency that plagues the Sahel region. France has about 1,500 troops in Niger, helping to fight an insurgency by groups linked to the Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. A decision about the revocation of 5 military deals with France dating between 1977 and 2020 was read out on national television. Ousted President Mohamed Bazoum wrote to Washington Post voicing his concerns over the instability in the country. Niger's military leadership has also announced discontinuation of mandates of its ambassadors to 4 countries, that's France, Nigeria, Togo and the United States. A faction of Niger's military staged a mutiny, ousted the democratically elected President Bazoum on the 26th of July. The landlocked nation is the 4th member of the ECOWAS hit by a...
That is the reason why. That is the reason why. They're making it look like they're the criminals, okay? But the reality is they want freedom. They don't want their people enslaved. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't see that. And a lot of Europeans have African leaders in their pocket that will act like they are the ones that are the criminals when they are trying to get rid of all the sellouts within their country. That is the problem here. And then France wants to act like the big baddie and act like, you know, France are victims. The French are the victims. No, they're not. No, they are not. This is what Macron is acting like now.
In Niger possibly get the idea that France had any interest whatsoever in intervening in its former colony. Well, it might have something to do with the statement that was put out by the French presidential palace, the Élysée, on Sunday that read, quote, anyone attacking French nationals, the army, diplomats and interests would see France respond immediately and intractably. And by French nationals, they mostly just mean one guy named Mr. Uranium, because Niger is France's top supplier of it, providing 15% of its total supply and a fifth of the European Union's. And the mineral is absolutely critical to power France's nuclear reactors. You see, France's energy independence is ironically very dependent on Niger, which would explain why French President Emmanuel Macron sounded awfully angry about something happening a whole continent away.
Anyone attacking French nationals, the army, diplomats, and rights of way would see France respond immediately and intractably. The President of the Republic will not...
He's talking a lot for a man whose own country is in flames, whose own country is about to become a third world country. The fact that he lowered the age consent down to nothing. The retirement age in France is raised up to 67. He has a lot of his own issues to deal with. He should be worrying about his own people right now instead of putting his nose in other people's business and worry about how he's going to survive in his own country, because his people are sick of him. They're sick of Macron. France has become a pedophile's wet dream.
Not tolerate any attack against France and its interests.
Yeah, those French interests would certainly include uranium. And now we've been hearing multiple Western press reports that the military junta, now in charge, has cut off exports of both uranium and gold to France. And that comes as really bad timing for Paris, which has become even more reliant on its nuclear power plants after cutting itself off from Russian gas with the rest of the EU to impress Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, in kind of the same way that college party guys work themselves into a frenzy and do dumb things like jump off a roof to impress girls. Germany is already on the verge of deindustrializing because Europe's economic engine can't run on wind and sun. Who knew? Apparently not Berlin. But at least France had not completely bought into Berlin's green fantasies and mothballed all their nuclear power plants, although Macron was certainly heading in that direction. So plan B after the Russian gas cutoff was to power them back up. But now Niger has suspended the export of the uranium that they require with the immediate effect. But hey, no problem though, right?
I say that's good for him. That's what you get with siding with NATO. That's what you get with siding with Ukrainian Nazis who are sex traffickers. People of France, like I said, it might be a revolution. You know what happened to Louis XVI when there was a revolution? What happened to Marie Antoinette when there was a revolution? Even Europeans are seeing how their leaders are toxic and crazy. Let's hear one talk about the Western leaders right now.
Leaders in the West are psychopathic maniacs. So get this, I'm hearing rumours that France are preparing airstrikes against Niger in Africa. And that if they go through with these airstrikes, Germany is going to back them. Because Germany's got such a great record at war and invading other countries, of course. And you might think, well, why? Why are France... If these rumours are true, why are France preparing to airstrikes against Niger? Well, Niger is one of 6 countries left in Africa that still use the French franc, the CFA franc. I know, right? France doesn't even use the franc. Well, it's all part of the colonial history, of course. And France's colonial history in Africa. And if you control the money supply like this in a country like France do, in these 6 countries, it was 8, but 2 countries have come off it recently in their coups as well. But if you control the money supply, you essentially control the country and get to do whatever you want with it. And they do. So, for instance, Niger export a lot of uranium to Europe specifically, and other resources as well. And anything that they sell abroad, France taxes 50%. 50.
You hear that? 50%. 50% robbery. And Macron wants to act like France, the French government, is victims here. You saw what they do to Haiti. Haiti still owes a debt to France, but France is the one that put them in chains, and the Haitians fought back and beat them. And to this day, Haiti still owes a debt to France. And Haiti can never get out of it because, one, they got, like I said, Western powers will always put puppet leaders there. That puppet leader that was there before, okay, he was installed there. And you know what that guy used to do before he became a president of Haiti? He used to be a banana farmer. And when he got in there, he did everything corrupt. But obviously he did something that the Western powers didn't like, and they had him taken out. Now it's in chaos. All thanks to Western powers. And people have the nerve. Oh, it's a poor country. Why do you think it's poor?
They steal half of the money because it's theirs, and they get to do that. I can't imagine why there's been a coup and why there keeps being coups in these countries that are on this CFA franc. Can you? I can't imagine why these countries want to come away from that and move towards Russia and China, who are saying to them, yeah, we'll deal with you on a fair and even basis and treat you like equals, and we'll respect your sovereignty. I can't imagine why they would want to come away from that. But understand this, if this is true, France, and along with Germany, are threatening to do exactly what they have been condemning Russia for doing for the last 18 months. They've been pumping weapons and support into Ukraine to fight this proxy war against Russia because they say Russia is a big, bad, bigger country that invaded them and should respect their sovereignty. Well, what about Niger's sovereignty, France?
Actually, it was the fact that Ukraine joined NATO, and Russia told them don't join NATO because NATO wants to rape the resources from Russia, the gold, the oil, and have their perverted lifestyle. That's why Putin said, don't join NATO. But you did. And you have those Nazis, and it's also, Ukraine is a haven for Nazis who are running away from other countries for committing war crimes, human rights violations, actually. And that's why Russia stepped in. Just to point that out. But like these European nations, they don't respect any other nation's sovereignty. They don't. They definitely don't respect Africa's.
Germany? Do they not matter? Or is it just the white Europeans that matter? Psychopathic maniacs. A lot of them. Consider the history of Africa and these African countries. Consider it from their point of view. They've had centuries of countries like France, like the UK, like America, stealing their wealth and their resources, and then condemning the country for being poor and backward. Oh, it's a poor country. You're stealing all its wealth, that's why. Not just its wealth, but its people too. You stole its people for hundreds of years ago and were selling them into the slave trade. So you've not just stolen their wealth and their people, and then have the gall to say, oh, they're poor countries. They're not poor. Got plenty of uranium in Niger. It's only poor because France is stealing half of its stuff. We've been assassinating any leaders in Africa that want to come away from
What I tell you.
the colonial rule. And now they're threatening to bomb, they're threatening airstrikes on Niger because they want to come away from that system. I can't imagine what it must be like for Africans to know the history as they do and have lived for hundreds of years under the boot of colonialism like this. And then, after having hundreds of years of their wealth being stolen and their people being stolen and sold into the slave trade, and their leaders being assassinated whenever they wanted to come away from colonial rule, I can't imagine what it must feel like for them to now listen to our leaders threaten war and at the same time say, oh, by the way, you've got to treat your gays better in Africa because that's human rights now. I can't imagine what it's like for them listening to our leaders say these things to them and act this way.
Right. You want to destroy their income. You want to not even make a fair deal with them. You want to take their resources, but you want to push a perverted lifestyle on them. And then you get mad when they say hell no. And they strong and you put sanctions, they say hell no again. Because they don't want to end up like you. This is how the American government and Western governments around in European nations, how they make enemies and how they create terrorists. Because you want to be a bully. And when they stand up, you try to play victim. All right? Just like Ukraine. Ukraine, they don't want to talk about how they have Nazis. They'll deny it. Okay. Oh, but Russia got their problem with Nazis. They said they were going to handle that Nazi problem. And guess what? There are Nazis in Europe. There's Nazis in America. There's Nazis in France. There's Nazis in many parts of Europe. Okay. You got bad people all around. But Russia's handling it with Putin at the helm. Is Putin a good guy? No. But you notice how evil the Nazis are. And the Russians fought against the Nazis in World War II. A lot of disgusting stuff, man. A lot. Niger coup. Junta scraps military pacts with France as it seeks to consolidate power following a recent coup. Niger's junta has said it will revoke various military cooperation agreements with France that were made under ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. Niger's junta said in a televised statement late Thursday that it has decided to scrap cooperation agreements in the field of security and defense with France. Between 1,000 and 1,500 French troops are currently stationed in Niger, which has become an important staging ground in the fight against Islamist militants affiliated with the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. After France withdrew from Mali and Burkina Faso following the military coups in both countries, the government of ousted Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum was one of the France's last strategic allies in the restive Sahel region. It is currently unclear if and when French forces will begin withdrawing from Niger. The French General Staff in Paris has told Le Monde newspaper that it does not recognize any authority than Bazoum. Since the coup led by General Adolbert Tachini of July 26, counterterrorism operations carried out by French, who are under the government of the Nigerian General Staff, have been suspended. On Thursday, the military junta reportedly also blocked French international news broadcasters France 24 and Radio France International. A senior Nigerian official told the AFP news agency that the broadcasters were blocked on instructions of the new military authorities. The French Foreign Ministry condemned the move on Thursday night. France reaffirms its constant engagement and determination in favor of freedom of expression, the press, and the protection of journalists, it said in a statement. The junta's crackdown on French government-funded media came as pro-coup protests continued. Thousands of people gathered in Niamey on what was also Nigeria's Independence Day. People held in anti-France protesters and waved Russian flags. The crowd shouted, "Down with France, long live Russia, long live Vladimir Putin," among other things. Takumi Ibrahim Agarka, a close ally of the disposed Nigerian president, who previously held public positions, believes the protests do not reflect the sentiments of most Nigerians. What you saw today is a manifestation organized by military, he told the Daily Wire. Most of them are the military who put on clothes like civilians. Ahead of protests, Paris had also asked Nigerian authorities to ensure the safety of the French embassy after it was attacked by protesters last week. I think people who protest against France made big mistake because it's not about France, Garker added. It's about our country. You know, a president who is democratically elected was taken hostage by somebody just because he got weapons. Hundreds of coup supporters also took to the streets in Agaz, on the edge of Sahara Desert, and Figel, the hometown of junta leader General Tahashi. A delegation from the Economic Community of Western African States, ECOWAS, also landed in Niamey on Thursday night. This week, ECOWAS said it could stage an intervention if the junta in Niger does not reinstate democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum by Sunday. Although it said military action was a last resort, last Thursday, Niger junta warned it would respond immediately to any aggression or attempted aggression by Western African countries. Senegal said on Thursday it would send soldiers to join ECOWAS if it decided to intervene military in Niger. It is one coup too many, said Senegalese Foreign Minister Assati Talsal, referring to the coups in Burkina Faso and Mali that also installed pro-Russia juntas. I think people need to stay out of it. Okay. What's up, Black Wolf? I think people need to stay out of it. No, this is Niger's problem. Let Niger handle it. Why are you coming over there trying to getting their business? Yeah, let the French do their own dirty work. Exactly. Let the French do their own dirty work. But this is why in times of slavery, you couldn't really have a successful slave rebellion against slave masters. You couldn't, because there's always somebody there that would protect the slave master, would run and rat on the people. Now, I'm not really for the violence and the bloodshed, but I do understand human beings, once you've been put through enough, is enough. Okay? That's the thing. That's why you have house Negro, field Negro. But in the Caribbean, where my ancestors are from, when you had a rebellion, you crushed those leaders. You crushed them. You crushed those Europeans because everybody was on the same team. Now, Africa will be probably a little different because a lot of European leaders and powers, they have a lot of African people in their pocket that will sell out. And they don't care about the consequences of selling out their own people, especially if they get caught. It's going to be over for them and possibly over for their family. They just think about the money. Unfortunately, Nigerians, not all Nigerians, they're like that. So those are people that you would definitely have to stay away from. All right. Let's get into this story right here in America, which is pretty wild. Too many different tribes. Yeah, too many different tribes. And too many, but the thing is like, they should be thinking, okay, we have to come against these racist Europeans, not just, okay, well, we're different, we should think about the money. No, you're all the same. You all have a common enemy. It's only a matter of time where they're going to do the same thing to you. And they've, European, Great Britain, they've done, the French and many others have done horrible things. And you have to wake up. Unfortunately, in America, the American blacks, I see how, not all of them, but I see how they act when it comes to this. Let's take the example of reparations, right? Let's take that for example. You tell them, like Don Mega has told them, also known as Kid Organic, he has told them that you need to start looking into tangibles, gold, land, silver. Cash is on its way out. We are going into a cashless society. You need tangibles. You know what some of them think? No, we could get cash. We could get cash. They're only thinking about themselves as individuals, selfishly. That's why I'm thinking maybe you guys don't deserve it, because you're not willing to listen to practical people tell you the truth. People with black skin tell you, listen, get tangible, get land, get gold, get silver. You're going to need that, because cash is going to be obsolete. They're already in other countries and in some parts of the United States. They're doing it, but they don't want to listen. You listen to Tariq Nasheed, who took the, Hidden Colors Museum, turned into a hooker lounge. You listen to people who don't care about you, and he took that lounge that was supposed to be for black people in LA, and he made it for his own personal selfish gain for his own family. That's his family's generational wealth, not yours. You're listening to crooks and swindlers like Umar Johnson, who took how long? Almost a decade to build a school. And he's lifting up OnlyFans models instead of condemning them, telling them that you have to find a better way to live, because that is degrading women, especially black women. That's who some black Americans will want to look to. All right. Malcolm X said it that, in other communities, you don't look to entertainers to talk about serious issues. But in the black community, you'll look to people that, that are entertainers and athletes to talk about serious issues. In other communities, you have leaders or politicians to talk about it. Politicians, I don't trust, they're all liars. But you have serious people to talk about serious issues. In the black community, unless you're throwing a basketball or kicking a ball across the field, nobody wants to listen to you. If you're actually a black American person that actually knows what he's talking about, he or she knows what he's talking about, you're looked upon as corny and whack, because what they're talking about requires self-sacrifice and hard work to get it done. It takes work to build a community, not Black Lives Matter, 3 witches who only care about themselves and rob the people blind who are actually suffering from police brutality, and then they're living high on the hog in California, some gated community. Yeah, they're bought and paid for. The same playbook they play in Africa, the same playbook they play here. They make sure every leader in Africa that's for their interests is bought and paid for. And any black leader that actually is for change, they will kill or run out the country. That's how they do it. But blacks don't want to listen to that. Many blacks don't want to listen to that. Okay? And when you speak up and tell the truth, you're a raccoon, you are a sellout, you're an agent, you're corny, high school shaming tactics. And those tactics are democratic. Those are liberal. But also, you got the right using those shaming tactics too. Once again, look into Manning Johnson, a former communist. He was black, and he'll tell you the communist playbook. He'll tell you about it. He wrote it in the book. Look it up. Look him up, Manning Johnson. All right, let's get into this story right now.
5 years. I've never seen anything like this.
First at 11, this one is tough to believe. An investigation tonight into a possible illegal medical lab. It was operating out of an abandoned warehouse in Reedley. Inside, mice bioengineered to incubate the COVID-19 virus. The lab was discovered near I and 9th Streets. 30 refrigerators and freezers, some broken, were found filled with bodily fluids. Health officials tell us they are shocked at the biological house of horror. CBS 47's Juanita Adame live in studio with the shocking details tonight.
Well, Brian, this story is so complicated. There are local, state, and federal agencies all involved. Now, what prompted this investigation was a simple garden hose that was illegally attached and coming out of the back of a building. It was back in April inside this abandoned warehouse in Reedley that a discovery so shocking was made that it left local health officials stunned.
This is a truly unusual situation. I've been in government for 25 years. I've never seen anything like this.
I've never have seen this in my 26-year career with the county of Fresno.
What was supposed to be an empty building used only for storage was home to an unauthorized lab testing facility, something no one had even conceived of.
We reach out to our local public health directors throughout the state, California, and nobody has really expressed this type of interaction with a unlicensed lab. So it is something new.
The discovery was made after a local code enforcement officer noticed this garden hose poking out a back wall of the building.
Frankly, we knew that shouldn't be there. And when she went to go investigate, she found that there was activity or operation or something happening within that building.
The city then obtained several search warrants to enter the building. Once inside, no staff was located, but
there was a special room that was built housing about 1,000 mice, 1,000 white lab mice.
And the reason the mice were in the lab was jaw-dropping.
Through their statements, that they were doing some testing on laboratory mice there that would help them support developing the COVID test kits that they had on site.
Documents show the lab was also being used to produce pregnancy tests. 200 of the nearly 1,000 mice were already dead. According to court documents, all the rodents were being caged in, quote, inhumane conditions. Also found thousands of vials, many of which contain biohazards, materials including human blood, unidentified tissue, and other unknown substances.
A lot of these are being classified under unknown chemicals. Labels had been removed from bottles, so there was only certain testing we could do to those chemicals.
According to court documents, experts determined that at least 20 potentially infectious, viral, bacterial, and parasitic agents were being stored inadequately, including E. coli, malaria, and even COVID. The city of Reedley immediately called in the CDC, the FBI, the California Department of Public Health, and the Fresno County Department of Public Health.
Wow. They say it was a Chinese lab. Also, they caught 2 Asian Navy guys passing down naval secrets to the Chinese. We're going to get into that. Let me get into the article right now. California caught colluding with the Communist Chinese Party to unleash deadly pathogen on American population. The Chinese Communist Party colluded with Democrats to release deadly pathogens from Newsome-funded biolab in California, according to a bombshell report by Gordon Chang. Chang, author of The Great U.S.-Chinese Tech War, warned that hundreds of genetically engineered mice discovered along with dozens of infectious agents at a warehouse in Reedley, California last week means China was preparing to launch a deadly bioweapon attack on U.S. soil. The other thing they found was nearly 1,000 mice, 175 of them dead, that had been genetically engineered to transmit disease, Chang told Fox News last Friday. So the only conclusion that fits the facts is that China was preparing to launch a pathogen from this lab, and I'm sure there must be others around the United States as well. At the very minimum, we need to be scouring our country for facilities like this because we know what disease can do to hobble our society, he added. The secret Chinese biolab was in operation for months in the abandoned building before it was uncovered by inspectors who found medical waste and hazardous materials, pregnancy and kits, and unmarked vials of biological and viral agents, including the, HIV, malaria, E. coli, hepatitis, and chlamydia. In previous interview with the NDT, Chang explained how the illegal biolab amounts to an act of war committed by the Communist Chinese Party against America. The lab was supposed to be making the, in pregnancy tests, but they found a lot of things in the lab that are inconsistent with that explanation. Chang said, including at least 20 agents for various diseases, and also there were about 1,000 white lab mice that were genetically engineered to carry pathogens. So we have to assume that this was biological weapons facility in the United States, he added. A representative for Prestige Biotech, the Communist Chinese Party-backed company operating the illegal lab, admitted to investigators that the mice on site were indeed genetically engineered to catch and carry the you-know-what. Okay. This is wild, man. This is wild. So I'm saying, I mean, people need to start. I hope people are prepping. I hope they're prepping because things are getting ugly in this country. All right. So let's get into these two soldiers right here. How many of you think that this will cause some racial tensions now between Asians and Americans? Just a thought. Fair use.
U.S. sailors are under arrest accused of providing sensitive national security information to China. Andrea Mitchell has late details for us.
Tonight, the Justice Department says the two Navy sailors have each been arrested for selling military secrets to China.
Sensitive military information ended up in the hands of the People's Republic of China.
The first defendant, 22-year-old Jin Chao Wei, faces espionage charges.
Wei sent national defense information to China, including documents, photos, videos, and technical manuals. In exchange, his intelligence officer paid Wei thousands of dollars.
Authorities say Wei, a machinist's mate on the USS.
What is this cause? What is the point of this? And, you could be going to jail for a long time. Never see your family again. What is the point of treason? I don't get it. What is the point?
Essex in San Diego sent the Chinese intelligence officer photos of military hardware and vehicles and divulged information about warfare exercises. The second person charged in a separate case, 26-year-old Petty Officer Wenhang Zhao from a naval base in Ventura County, California. Federal authorities allege Zhao received approximately $15,000 from a Chinese intelligence officer.
That's all you got? $15,000? That's all those secrets are? You're facing lifetime in prison. That's what you sold out for? $15,000? Not $15 million. Not to get out of the country when things get hot. No, you sold out for mortgage money. For, to pay a mortgage, a month's mortgage. That's what you sold out for. You sold out for money that you would pay for a car. In some cases, maybe a Tesla. That's what you sold out for. Unbelievable.
In exchange for sharing operational plans, Navy movements, and blueprints for a radar system at a U.S. military base in Okinawa, Japan.
In short, Mr. Zhao chose a path of corruption.
Yeah. I wouldn't say corruption. I say foolishness. I'd say a path of foolishness. It's beyond corruption. It's just stupidity, a path of stupidity. Yeah, the model minority. Yeah. They pinned them against the African Americans and other ethnic groups. And you see the hell they're catching with now that affirmative action is off the table, is no longer existent now. You have to get it on merit. Yeah, you're going to actually trust the dominant society and a white supremacist society. You're going to actually earn your way in society through merit. Now, I ain't saying being a lazy bum, but the whole point of affirmative action was to make sure employers and companies would not try to screw you over, would not try to have you working and, having a carrot. If you work hard, you'll be the head of the company one day or have a leadership position, only for the fact that you're going to be training somebody who is white like them and they get the position, yet you've been working there for years and have the qualifications. And they put those people in leadership positions while you are just a high-paid working employee. Okay? We live in a white man's country. They've made it loud and clear for years. It's only now that some of us are actually listening. Okay? That's the honest to God truth. And people will say, you're making it about race. Excuse me. We live in a country that was founded on race. Okay? Who has the more of a population? Okay, who has more of a high percentage in the population? Who has less? Okay. Who was infiltrated by the white liberal society to make sure that, you know, black people would have a low birth rate? Yeah. Who are the ones that actually had to practically march for human rights? Who are the ones that actually had put in our leaders? Okay, like Martin Lucifer King. I'm not calling him Martin Luther King. I'm calling him Martin Lucifer King. That communist boule sellout. Who put him there? Oh yes, Rothschilds. Yeah. Whose side is the one to make sure the white birth rate is up, and what side that the blacks are on to make sure the black birth rate and other minority birth rates are low? Democrats. Who's in charge of leadership in the Democratic Party? Is it whites or is it blacks? Whites. Who's the ones that say all lives matter, but it's only in principle, never to be put in practice? Republicans. Does it seem that both parties look to support white supremacy and keep the black person down or in a state of perpetual victimhood? Yes, it does. What was keeping them from screwing you over in the job at times was affirmative action. Yes, you have racism on the job, but it wouldn't be as brutal if it wasn't for affirmative action there. And they would gas up the Asians and tell them, look at the Asians, they're such a model minority and they work hard and stuff, but they don't tell you the fact that the Asians are also being sexually harassed, passed over for jobs constantly. Can never be CEOs. Cannot have leadership positions. Now they're complaining about it now. All right. Republicans about all lives matter. And that's what happens. Guess what happens? GOP comes in, starts hacking away at scholarships for minorities. The Asians are doing this. All right. All right, let's get into the story. I know you guys probably get tired of my rant. 2 U.S. Navy sailors charged with providing sensitive military information to China. San Diego Associated Press, 2 Navy sailors were charged Thursday with providing sensitive military information to China, including details on wartime exercises, naval operations, and critical technical material. The 2 sailors, both based in California, were charged with similar motives to provide sensitive intelligence to the Chinese. But they were separate cases, and it wasn't clear if the 2 were courted or paid by the same Chinese intelligence officers as part of a larger scheme. Federal officials at the news conference in San Diego declined to specify whether there is any tie between the cases. Both men pleaded not guilty in federal courts in San Diego and Los Angeles. They were ordered to be held until their detention hearings, which will take place August 8th in those same cities. But I'd like to know, what's the deal with these Chinese police stations in American cities? What's the deal with that? Because this isn't the first time we've had spies, all right, from China. U.S. officials have for years expressed concern about the espionage threat they say Chinese government poses, bringing criminal cases in recent years against Beijing intelligence operatives who have stolen sensitive government and commercial information, including through illegal hacking. The pair of cases also comes on the heels of another inside threat. Prosecution tried to the U.S. military with the Justice Department in April, arresting a Massachusetts Air National Guardsman on charges of leaking classified military documents about Russia's war in Ukraine and other sensitive national security topics on Discord, a social media platform popular with people playing games online. I remember that, but why would you trust a 20-year-old with that type of information? U.S. officials said the cases exemplify Chinese brazenness in trying to obtain insight into U.S. military operations. Through the alleged crimes committed by these defendants, sensitive military information ended up in the hands of the People's Republic of China, said Matt Olson, the Assistant Attorney General for the National Security at the Department of Justice. He added that the charges demonstrate the Chinese government's determination to obtain information that is critical to our national defense by any means so it could be used to their advantage. Jakayo Wee, a 22-year-old sailor assigned to the San Diego-based USS Essex, was arrested Wednesday while boarding the ship. He's accused of providing detailed information on the weapon systems and aircraft aboard the Essex and other amphibious assault ships that act as small aircraft carriers. Prosecutors said Wei, who was born in China, was approached by a Chinese intelligence officer in February of 2022 while he was applying to become a naturalized U.S. citizen and admitted to the officer that he knew the arrangement could affect his application. Even so, the officer's request, Wei provided photographs and videos of Navy ships, including the USS Essex, which can carry an array of helicopters, according to an indictment unsealed Thursday. Okay, so this guy was Okay. My thing is this. If you're at war with China, right? And this, that China is backing Russia, doesn't it make sense to just block all Chinese people from entering the US country, I'm sorry? Doesn't it make sense that way? It's always been good cop, bad cop for the Democrats. Yeah, pretty much. All right, back to this. It makes, like I said, I really think we live in, this is just, you ever heard the saying, right, that the world is a stage and we are just players? Have you ever heard that? The world is just a stage and it's just mere players in it. I start to believe that sometimes. I really do. Because a country, if we lived with a real country and not governed by a shadow government, don't believe what I'm saying, you don't know what I'm talking about, please look up JFK's speeches on shadow governments, and many other people have said this, that we have a government, but then there's a government beneath it that really pulls the strings. Okay? And stuff like this, if we actually lived, let's say, in a real ideal world without, the type of nonsense that's going on. If you have a war, right, going on, and a country is siding with your enemy, you would make sure that country that's siding with the enemy that you are fighting, their people don't get into your country. They are boarded off. They're not allowed in. You don't care who they are. They come from that country. You're not allowed in. U.S. citizens are forbidden from going to that country or doing business with that country. You're at war. Makes complete sense. All right. We continued to send sensitive information multiple times over the course of a year. It even was congratulated by the Chinese officer once we became a U.S. citizen, said U.S. Attorney Randy Grossman from the Southern District of California. He added that whether for greed or some other reason, we chose to turn his back on his newly adopted country. Oh, I don't understand how he could do that. How could he betray us? There was no us. He was an immigrant from another country. He wasn't born here. He said born in China. He was born in China. The Justice Department charged Wei under a Rarely Used Espionage Act statute that makes it a crime to gather or deliver information to aid a foreign government. After pleading not guilty in San Diego, Wei was assigned a new public defender who declined to comment following the hearing. Wei did not visibly react when read the charges. All right. Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think that oh man, I really, yeah, we're run by a shadow government. I just, the United States government can't be this dumb. Can they? Can they be this dumb? Anyway, so let's get into Neil deGrasse Tyson and let's listen to the wildness coming out of his mouth. Trust the science. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Oh.
Now, here, so now just to tie a bow on this, I say to you, somewhere I think I read that the United States was a land where we have the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female.
Pursuit of happiness does not mean that delusion. And when you want that delusion, see, you could believe anything you want, but when you want to drag other people into it, including kids, that's where there's a problem.
20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
This is a person that says he's a scientist. This is a person that believes in science that's telling you this right now. I want you to understand that. Science, the one that tells us about XY, and XX chromosomes. The science that we're supposed to go by that helps things go smoothly in our world. Yeah, he's going against it. He claims to be a scientist. Okay.
Yeah. What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
This is how you know people are easily bribed. You got that money, you could make anybody be your prostitute. The more money you make, the more they have the ability to make anyone your prostitute. Okay? Look at this guy. I mean, he's black. He doesn't respect, being black, or he doesn't respect the fact of, the white supremacy meant to crush him into powder. Either they're going to terminate you or they're going to make you their slave or prostitute, as we are seeing with the words coming out of his mouth. He doesn't respect that. I mean, come on. We got Obama. I mean, they picked Obama and they just used him as a puppet to say whatever they wanted to hear and to brainwash the people. And he's doing the same thing. Doing the same thing. Claims to be a scientist, though. Yep. And then they want to talk about fighting a race war. The race war is right here. There's been a race war. Just too blind to see it.
And what I've found in the human mind is that we go out of our way to put things in categories, in bins, all right? Because that makes it easier for us. So that's why people come up to you and say, well, you were born.
You put it in bins and it's called categories. That's what you do, all right? Everything, you can't put everything together and just hope it just fits together. You have to, there's things that are of A, they go in file cabinet A. Things that are file cabinet B go in file cabinet B. That's how it goes. You do not take from things that meant to be in cabinet A and put it in cabinet B, and take things that meant for cabinet B to be in cabinet A. That's how things get mixed up, and we have confusion, and we have what we're dealing with today. Drag queens fighting for storybook time. Parents in delusion taking their kids to drag queen story time. Okay. The Boy Scouts is no longer the Boy Scouts. We have just hilarious, speaking out against the alphabet mafia. And, you know, black men have been saying it for years. Listen, these people, they want to be you. They're trying to take your spot. They called us, they called us men fruity. They said we're dumb. They're telling them that, oh, well, they'll never take my spot. Oh, they will, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to come after the children. Okay? And they will use feminism, which has been very effective in destroying the urban black community and the family unit there. Very effective. You stand up with with feminism, which is a sister. I've said this before. It's a sister of white supremacy. I've always said that. Okay. And these white feminists, sometimes they go home to their husbands while you black women go home to 3 kids with different last names and a cold bed at night, or some useless bum that keeps that bed warm at night. White supremacy's been winning. Like I said, there's a race war here. And you refuse to see it when sound people are trying to tell you. Okay? But you got people like this telling you stuff, and people like Malik Yoba, who was in, there's an old show back in the day called New York Undercover. He was promoting that crap. All right? And they'll get their, how could I say it? They'll get their T-1000s in black skin. That's how I'll use a Terminator 2 Judgment Day reference. That's what I'll do. He looks like you. He talks like you. But you won't know until it's too late that he's the enemy. By then, he stabbed you in the back. Okay? That's how it goes.
Are you a girl? Choose one. Which are you? I say, no, maybe I'm a little of both. Wait. Maybe
you heard that? I'm a little of both. Mixed nuts, y'all. Mixed nuts. This guy used to get a lot of respect. A lot of respect. Never really paid attention to him, because he just seemed like something was off about him. And I was proven right. Science explainer Neil deGrasse Tyson converts to Transformers. Each person's male or female biology is subordinate to the gender they display. Their clothes, makeup, says Neil deGrasse Tyson, the progressive science explainer. Anytime you see progressive, it's not progress, okay? It's not. It's just communism. This conversation to progressiveness, transformer, anti-science ideology has prompt hoots and laughter from critics. deGrasse Tyson is revising 1950s gender stereotypes to justify the transformer ideology that leads to sterilization of teenagers, responded Chloe Clow, a young woman who was swept up by the transformer agenda when she was an insecure teenager. Coley scoffed. How about we stop confusing basic human biology with cosmetics? Like, what a weird jump. I don't wear makeup stuff. If I leave the house without makeup, does that make me like 70% male? He's either clueless and incurious about the gender-critical anti-transformer perspective, or he's pretending to miss the point that a person's attitude, character, and clothing have no impact on their male or female sex, responded Colin Wright, a well-regarded critic of Transformers. He added, if he would bother to consult actual critics of gender ideology with their perspectives, he would understand that the current debates over Transformers are about legitimate concerns over eliminating sex-based laws and protections for women and girls as a class rooted in biology rather than a shared desire to wear eyeliner. deGrasse Tyson the much-touted advocate for science, embraced transformerism in recent episode of Stephen A. Smith's podcast. My point is that apparently the biological XXXY chromosomes are insufficient because we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray, the gender of our choice. Suppose no matter my XX or XY chromosomes today, I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm going to put on makeup. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care? What business is it of yours to acquire that I feel your inability to think of gender on a spectrum? Many, not all, male transformers insist that their female gender identity actually converts them into biological women. Gender ideology is the belief that what makes someone fundamentally a woman, girl, man, or boy is their subjective identity instead of actual biology, said an August 1st response from Wright. A lot of more follows from and interlocks with this core belief. But that's the foundational premise. Wright wrote, the current debates have nothing to do with a refusal to acknowledge and accept sex atypical behaviors and expressions. In reality, they are about legitimate concerns over eliminating sex-based laws and protections for women and girls as a class rooted in biology rather than a shared desire to wear eyeliner. They're about preserving sex-segregated intimate spaces for the safety and dignity of women and girls. If this was only truly about aesthetics, nobody would care, Cole responded. It's my business because you're using 1950s gender stereotypes to justify an ideology that leads to sterilization, mastectomies, 15-year-old girls who just don't fit in. With teenager cliques, girls like me, I wonder what gender he was when he recorded this. He doesn't have a muscle shirt on, right? No spray tan. He's probably like 50% male because the only thing that you've established in this video is that men wear trousers and tank tops, but women wear lipstick and dresses. There are maybe only two sexes, but there are infinite number of personalities. I mean, it really doesn't take a degree in astrophysics to understand that, she said. It doesn't. Richard Dawkins, a British scientist, also ridiculed the suggestion that people can change their sex by adopting different words. This is a staunch, hardcore atheist. Let's hear what he has to say.
Sex really is binary, there's no question about it. You're either male or female, and it's absolutely clear. You can do it on gamete size, you can do it on chromosomes. To me, as a biologist, distinctly weird. People can simply declare, I am a woman, though I have a penis. Helen, what do you think lies behind this odd distortion of reality?
I would say that when I started to write about it first, I quickly realised that this wasn't treated the same way as anything else. Like just asking very obvious questions, like, don't you think that if we allow people to self-identify their sex, this will lead to, for example, destroying women's sports or putting rapists in women's jails? People would turn this back on me and say,
yeah, they're doing that now in California.
You think that trans people are predators. You're a bigot. What we were talking about here was an intensely linguistic movement. There isn't a...
Pretty much. All right. Well, that's all I got for now. If you want to get this on replay, I'm going to put this on Rumble. All right. And I'm on Spotify, Rumble, Radical Thought 791. Spotify is Hard Talk Radio live in 4K. All right. Anything else you want to know about this channel? It's in the description box. Okay. You know what to do. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later. If you feel like donating to the Cash App, feel free to do that as well. Later.